What if I told you that a single swipe changed the world forever? Not a swipe on your phone, but a swipe that happened decades before smartphones even existed. The simple action, the swipe of a card, is something most of us do every day without a second thought. But have you ever stopped to wonder where it came from? On January 11th, 1968, IBM quietly introduced a piece of technology that would become the backbone of modern commerce, banking, and even security. This is the story of the magnetic stripe card, a technology that laid the groundwork for the digital age we live in today. Before we dive into the details of that fateful day in 1968, let's rewind a bit further. The idea of storing data on a magnetic medium wasn't entirely new. During World War II, magnetic tape was developed in Germany for recording audio. After the war, this technology found its way into the burgeoning computer industry, primarily for data storage on large mainframe systems. Companies like IBM were pioneers in using magnetic tape reels to store vast amounts of information for businesses and governments. However, this was bulky, expensive, and far from portable. The challenge was to miniaturize this concept, to put the power of magnetic data storage into the hands of an individual. The impetus for this innovation came from a rather unexpected place: the need for a more secure and efficient way to handle financial transactions and identification. In the mid-20th century, credit cards were little more than embossed plastic plates. When you made a purchase, a clerk would use a clunky imprinter machine to create a carbon copy of the card's embossed numbers onto a sales slip. This process was slow, prone to errors, and offered very little in terms of security. Fraud was a significant problem, and verifying a customer's identity or credit status was a manual, time-consuming affair involving phone calls to a central office. The world was crying out for a better system. Enter Forrest Perry, an engineer at IBM. The story, which has become something of a tech legend, goes that Perry was trying to figure out how to attach a strip of magnetic tape to a plastic ID card for the CIA. He was experimenting with different adhesives, but none seemed to work properly. Frustrated, he went home. His wife, who was ironing clothes, suggested he use the heat of the iron to melt the tape onto the plastic. Skeptical but willing to try anything, Perry gave it a shot, and it worked. The heat fused the magnetic tape to the plastic card, creating the very first, albeit crude, magnetic stripe card. The simple, almost accidental discovery was the spark that ignited a revolution. While Perry's ironing board breakthrough was a crucial moment, turning this prototype into a viable, mass-producible technology required years of dedicated research and development. IBM assembled a team of brilliant engineers to tackle the numerous challenges. They needed to perfect the magnetic material, figure out how to encode data onto the stripe reliably, and, perhaps most importantly, develop a device that could read that data quickly and accurately. This was no small feat. The magnetic stripe had to be durable enough to withstand being carried in a wallet, swiped thousands of times, and exposed to various environmental conditions. The data encoding had to be standardized so that a card issued by one bank could be read by a machine at a different store, or even in a different country. This led to the development of the encoding standards we still see today. The magnetic stripe on the back of your card is actually composed of 3 distinct tracks. Track 1, developed by the airline industry, can hold alphanumeric characters, your name, for instance. Track 2, developed by the banking industry, holds numeric data like your account number and expiration date. Track 3 was designed for read-write capabilities, allowing for data to be updated on the card itself, though it's rarely used in modern payment cards. IBM's engineers meticulously worked out the data density, the encoding schemes, and the physical specifications for these tracks. On January 11th, 1968, after years of tireless work, IBM officially announced its magnetic stripe card technology. They presented it as a solution for everything from credit transactions and employee ID badges to public transportation passes and driver's licenses. Initially, the adoption was slow. The world was still accustomed to the old ways, and the infrastructure needed to support this new technology, the card readers, The network connections, the back-end processing systems simply didn't exist yet. It required a massive investment from banks, retailers, and other industries. The big breakthrough came in the early 1970s when the banking and airline industries began to see the immense potential. For banks, it meant the possibility of automated teller machines, or ATMs. The magnetic stripe could securely identify a customer and link them to their account, allowing for cash withdrawals and other transactions without a human teller. The first ATMs were clunky and often unreliable, but they were a glimpse into a future of 24/7 banking. For airlines, the magnetic stripe offered a way to streamline the ticketing and check-in process, reducing queues and improving efficiency. By the mid-1970s, the magnetic stripe had become the global standard. Visa and MasterCard, the two dominant credit card networks, mandated its use on all their cards. This created a unified ecosystem. Suddenly, a card issued in New York could be swiped in a shop in London or a restaurant in Tokyo. This interoperability was the key to its global success. It powered the explosion of consumer credit and transformed the retail landscape. The satisfying cha-ching of a cash register was gradually replaced by the subtle beep of a card reader. The impact of the magnetic stripe card extended far beyond just payments. Think about it. The hotel key card that grants you access to your room? That's a direct descendant of IBM's invention. The employee ID you use to clock in and out of work? Same technology. The library card you use to check out books? The gift card you receive for your birthday? The public transit card you tap to ride the subway? All of these everyday items owe their existence to the principles established by IBM back in 1968. It created a universal standard for portable, machine-readable identification. Of course, the magnetic stripe wasn't perfect. As its use became more widespread, criminals began to find ways to exploit its weaknesses. The data on the stripe is stored magnetically and isn't encrypted, making it vulnerable to skimming. Skimming devices, often cleverly disguised to look like legitimate card readers, could be placed on ATMs or gas pumps to illegally copy the data from a card stripe. This stolen information could then be used to create counterfeit cards, leading to widespread fraud. This security vulnerability became the primary driver for the next evolution in card technology, the move to EMV chips. The EMV chip, that small metallic square you see on the front of modern cards, is essentially a tiny computer. Unlike the static data on a magnetic stripe, the chip creates a unique one-time transaction code for every purchase. This makes the data much more difficult to steal and use for fraudulent purposes. The transition from magnetic stripes to chips has been a massive global undertaking, but it represents the natural progression of the technology that IBM started. However, even in the age of chip cards and contactless payments like Apple Pay and Google Pay, the magnetic stripe stubbornly persists. Why? The simple answer is legacy infrastructure. There are still millions of older point-of-sale terminals around the world, particularly in smaller businesses or certain regions that are not yet equipped to handle chip cards. To ensure universal acceptance, cards are still issued with a magnetic stripe as a backup. That swipe you might occasionally have to do when a chip reader fails is a direct link back to the engineering of the 1960s. The legacy of January 11th, 1968 is a testament to the power of a single, transformative idea. Forrest Perry's moment of inspiration at his ironing board, combined with the dedicated engineering of the IBM team, set in motion a chain of events that reshaped our world. They took the concept of massive, room-sized data storage and distilled it down to a thin black stripe on a piece of plastic that could fit in your pocket. This innovation didn't just make payments faster. It connected the world in a new way. It created the foundation for global commerce, automated banking, and secure access control systems that we now take for granted. Every time you swipe a card, tap your phone to pay, or use an ATM, you are interacting with a system whose origins trace back to that announcement by IBM. It was a pivotal moment that bridged the gap between the analog and digital worlds, paving the way for the interconnected, on-demand society we live in today. The magnetic stripe may be slowly fading into the background, superseded by more secure technologies, but its influence is undeniable. It was the crucial first step that put the power of digital information directly into our hands. If you found this journey into tech history interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe to TimeShift Tech. We dig into the stories behind the technology that shapes our lives every single day. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you won't miss our next deep dive. This is TimeShift Tech, where we explore what happened in technology on this day. Because every date matters, and every date marks a moment in technology history.